Hey, good morning, everyone. I hope everyone's having a great start to the day. My name's Stefan. I'm a salesperson here at Nasstar. We are one of the most accredited Microsoft partners in the UK that helps organizations with the implementation, optimization, and ongoing support of Microsoft products. These include the likes of cloud infrastructure, modern workplace, data, automation, AI, and security. In today's session, we will be discussing the following topics: the challenges and trade-off between innovation and control, how Microsoft Security Suite uncovers shadow AI across your environment and brings it under control with real guardrails, how to turn uncovered or ungoverned even risk into faster, safer innovation, and hopefully by the end of this 45-minute session, you'll be more informed on how Microsoft Security Suite can govern AI usage and security. I'm going to hand over to my colleague Sean, who will kick us off by talking about the era of AI and why security matters more than ever. Sean, over to you.
Thanks, Steph. Hey, everyone. Welcome to your Tuesday morning. Thanks so much for giving up some of your time. I know we're all super busy, but we really do appreciate people kind of leaning in and joining us for these little webinars we're doing. So I'm Sean Morris. I'm the CTO for the Microsoft business inside Nasstar. I'm joined today by Justin Barker, who runs our secure productivity practice. Wave, Justin, if you hadn't already. And Giles Rothwell, who is one of our security consultants. Give a little wave, Giles. You just did. Okay, thank you. So I want to start by kind of setting the scene a little bit, really, because security in some respects is a little bit of a background topic in all the conversations we're having with businesses around AI. But I just want to start by getting everyone's head into this kind of why are we having this conversation? What's this all about? Why is this a new thing? And I think it all kind of starts with this concept of the frontier firm. You're probably all a little bit sick of hearing it. It's become very common speak now, but I think there's really something in this where, we are talking about businesses integrating what is a fundamentally a novel technology still into the processes and data and applications of your organization, and that of course has a huge amount of implications to security. Now, the premise behind, or the thesis, if you will, behind the frontier firm is this: injecting AI through all of these areas of the business in quite different ways. So you've got the concept of making your individuals more productive. A lot of people are using chat. I'm sure you're all using chat at the moment. I was listening to a guy, he's left Google now, but he was there for several years, and he likened it to basically buying in intelligence or buying in IQ. And I quite like that model. And you take an individual who has an amount of IQ. We won't test anyone to see what that is today, but and then you can bolt another 80, 90 IQ onto that individual and make them more productive, quicker, all that kind of stuff. And all of these different dimensions all make that statement true, but they're in very different ways. So that front end piece around chat is a thing. That middle kind of second phase is introducing the agentic layer. So you've got people in the organization that are engaging with agents that have got very specific jobs and tasks. And then this kind of third phase then is this concept of building autonomous agents that kind of blend into the teams more seamlessly. And you've got this concept of these kind of human agent blended teams, where the term kind of agent boss, which is a little bit weird, but I get it, where you basically are command and control across a bunch of autonomous agents. Now, we are actually seeing organizations engage across all three of these phases at different points in different parts of their business. All of this has a huge implication for security, because if you're now exposing agents to data and to business processes and all kinds of stuff, that obviously is exposing a lot of corporate information through something that we need to govern and manage. Click the button, Sean. There we go. So why does it matter even more? Now, we all love a good stat, and I think this is all around the fact that this is happening in real time. We have got we were with Microsoft yesterday, and we were going through like 20 agents we've written in the first 6 months of this year for organizations that are sitting across finance, sitting across operation work. Some of them are line of business applications that have got AI injected into them. And so we are absolutely seeing this take place. A lot of this stuff's kind of still kind of proof of value level stuff, and people are somewhat kicking the tires, but you have got some kind of deep and rich corporate data now being processed by these agentic models inside the security boundary of an organization, and that's why we think it's quite topical to bring this up now and have a bit of a chat about it. And what's really important is the AI uptake in a business is so dependent on the organization's ability to trust whether A, the data is right, B, it's not corrupted, and it is somewhat secure. Last lot of stats, I promise, well, certainly from me. We are seeing this security challenge surface through kind of different dimensions. So the worry about data leakage and stuff, the shadow AI thing, which is what we're specifically focusing on today. It's how corporate data can be leaking the organization because people are using non-sanctioned models. It presents a whole bunch of new kind of security vectors, and I'll touch on that in a second. And then you've also got to worry about the quality of the output and all that kind of stuff, which is a slightly different topic, but it's all kind of related to this kind of governance framework conversation we're having. Right, so what AI is presenting is a whole bunch of kind of new security attack vectors, which is I think we're kind of aware. Some people are more aware than others. I think, at the dead of night, when you close your eyes, if you're a security specialist on the call, you might sit there going, I probably should get my head around this. But you've got, the AI layer itself, like what can you do to prevent and detect things like prompt injection and that kind of stuff at the AI layer. How can we govern its responses? How do we make sure the data is good? All of these are kind of dimensions of the security and governance conversation that need to be kind of picked up. And I think at the bottom there, those threat vectors are still true when it comes to zero trust. How are you protecting the app, the identity, the endpoint, the network, the data? Those things are still relevant in an AI context, but the vector into those areas is now presenting itself through these agents and these prompts that you may be putting out in public, or you may be giving to partners to work in, and you want to make sure that you're somewhat protecting yourself from those environments. But again, these are broad topics. We want to focus very much today on the shadow IT stuff, or the shadow agent stuff, or shadow AI. I'll get the name of the thing right at some point, but because that is a topic we're seeing everywhere. I mean, we've been, again, talking to loads of organizations, and almost all of them have got multiple sets of different models running. Some people are bringing their own. Some organizations have already bought 4 or 5 different models and they're running them internally, and it's just a governance nightmare and a security nightmare. So without any further ado, I'm going to hand over to JB, who's going to touch on some of the zero trust stuff, and then we'll get into the meat of it with Giles in a moment. Justin, all yours.
Thanks, Sean. So I'm going to take you back to basics a little bit before we move forward into the kind of really cool technology stack. So Sean's right. The shadow AI is a new lens on an existing problem, which is your security principles at their base level. So as kind of a starting point, I'm going to take you through a Topsy and Tim view of your security strategy. And hopefully everybody likes my pretty houses, because they took me forever to draw. So here we are to look at your security strategies. It's all driven based on risk and your risk management and your risk threshold against the financial implications. And where you sit on your risk level from your foundational perspective is also going to be your starting point for your risk towards AI. So AI does not introduce new risk. I think we need to be really clear about this. AI is going to make your existing risk more visible and potentially more accessible and exploitable. So Sean's already briefly mentioned on this is we start with the zero trust framework. I'm not going to go through each pillar of this because we haven't got all day for this one, but there are basically the 6 main pillars of zero trust, with each different element having a different security exposure, security risk, security tool set, ways of working, all based around your organization's risk profile and the way you would like your business and your users to be able to carry out their role. And that is going to be specific to you and your organization. There is best practices thrown around there quite a lot. I strongly believe there's a lot of recommended guidance, but best practice is unique to you in your organization. There are things that are common, though, that would obviously help improve your security controls and your security posture. So the main three pillars of the main three tenets of Zero Trust: verify explicitly, least privilege access, always assume the breach or risk of breach, and design your security footprint from that perspective. So how does Zero Trust apply to Shadow AI specifically? Verify every user, every session that they're using. Verify their connections to Copilot, verify their connections to ChatGPT, verify the connections to Claude, and look at that from a perspective of data exfiltration. Make sure your devices are compliant and are up to standard and meet your policy. The OS is patched, the applications are patched. There's no unapproved software. These strange applications. Make sure that you have scored and you are controlling what you're trying to access and what solutions and what tooling you are providing to your users. Work is something we do, necessarily something we are, and the current modern way of working is IT providing the tool that somebody asks for. That's fine. Just make sure that you validated the tool is not going to increase your security risk, your security exposure. Your data tower, making sure that data is classified so you're not getting unnecessary exfiltration. It was an issue pre-AI. It's now more of an issue in the AI generation with people going, well, I'll just put this data into this tool so it can do the analysis or it can find me threads. Do you know where that data is going? Infrastructure hasn't really changed. Are we protected at the boundary? Are we protected between VLANs? Are we protected at the device level? Are we protected at the switch level? Where is, if we're building our own AI model, where is that AI being held? Who can access that LLM? And then network. What is passing over the network? So from an AI perspective, that's an initial view of how the Zero Trust overlay can help give you an AI protection layer on top of just having Zero Trust as a good practice for any organization. That's the high level summary. I'm now going to hand over to Giles, who's one of my senior architects, to kind of go into more detail and more specifics around Shadow AI, and security and protection. Giles, over to you, mate.
Thanks, Justin. Let's take this forward. Oh. So, why does security matter more than ever? And I think, as Justin said, AI hasn't necessarily introduced new risks, but what it very much has is amplified the potential of existing risks. I'm going to throw in a couple of very quick possible scenarios here, and these are not, these are not dreamt up. These are things we have seen in real customer environments ourselves. So, first one is you've got a nice picture of Jenny in accounts here. She's desperate. She's busy, like we all are. She doesn't have enough time to do what she does. She's got an email she needs to get out desperately to on a contract or something, but she's not happy with what the content of the email. So what she does is she's got access to her personal Gmail account on her corporate laptop, and from that personal Gmail account, she's got her own Claude session or subscription. So she copies and pastes that email into that Claude session for it to format it and perhaps write it a bit better. That email contains details about customers, it contains intellectual property about the organization, various bits of data that you really don't want necessarily outside of your organization, but instantly, because she's busy to do something, she doesn't really think she's done anything wrong, she's done it all on her corporate laptop, she's put data in an unsanctioned app in servers that you don't know where they are, and also that's now accessible from her personal Gmail account as well. So should her personal account be compromised, which you've got very little control over, that data's out there. And also, where's it sitting from a data residency point of view? Do you have legal obligations to keep your data in certain geographical boundaries, things like that? It's just all those rules have suddenly gone out the window. So that's one scenario, and we've seen that time and time again, whether it be Claude, whether it be ChatGPT. People are using AI because it makes their life easier. The other one is you've perhaps got a developer in your organization who's just started using Claude for improving their or basically speeding up their ability to create applications, to create code, do things they couldn't do or would take days or weeks, they can now do in minutes. So he's got Claude Desktop on his machine. He's also got local admin on his machine because he's a developer. That's quite a common scenario we see because they need it to install stuff. And actually, he's also got some quite strong permissions into some of your corporate servers because he needs to deploy applications and things like that. And all of a sudden, you've got an AI entity, an agentic entity now that has control and basically just wants to please him. I mean, let's be honest, a lot of these AI models are trained to deliver for people, so they want to do it the best they can. And suddenly you've got an AI agent that's got unrestricted access to that device, and potentially admin level permissions to infrastructure within your environment. And do we really know what it's going to do? Maybe not. So we've seen both of those scenarios. So that's just a couple of many potential issues that we see. And this is a little bit why Justin's given us a sort of overview of the whole zero trust piece, but the rules and the guidance hasn't fundamentally changed. And let's be honest, I doubt there's many organizations that can sit there and go, we have a perfect zero trust environment we've delivered already. We're already potentially not doing some of the security controls as well as we could or we would like, due to whether it be constraints from a business perspective, from finance, from time, whatever it is. We're still not doing it well enough. The problem is AI has accelerated those risks. So we need to be doing it better, and we need to be doing it quicker. So how do we go about doing that? Oh, I haven't. Sorry, just looking through. So how do we go about doing that? Securing our invisible attack surface. One of the things I pretty much always try and say to people, and I think is one of the most important things you can do in an organization. Security has to work for your business. It has to work with your business model. It has to work with your business processes, and it should be, if anything, an enabler, not a restriction. The biggest issue being, you put in too many restrictions or too many hard and fast rules that don't work with your business or don't allow people to do the job they need to do on a daily basis, and they'll just find a way around it. I mean, with AI, it's now it's a whole different level of potential attack surface. But going back 10-20 years, this is organizers went around banning USB sticks or stopping USB sticks to stop data going out or to stop malware being run on them. What did people do? You ban USB sticks, the use of Dropbox in the organization explodes and things like that. So it just moves to the next thing. So whatever we do, we have to do in the right way to take the business with us and not just put in hard and fast rules. Some classics. People will use their mobile phone to go around, potentially proxy restrictions or things like that. More and more people are using mobile devices or personal devices, BYOD or whatever. So we're losing some of those potential controls. So one of the key things that we need in this scenario is, as I say, getting the right balance between what's required, but also what allows your business to operate. We've skipped on here, but one of the and this has been a problem also for since cloud applications have been available. Not just the fact that they're AI, but actually a lot of OAuth apps, particularly in M365, by default, people are allowed to install apps into M365 tenants. That's now no longer the default for some fairly obvious reasons, but people would install apps that would have excessive permissions, whether it be because the developer was just lazy and couldn't be bothered to work out how to make that app work without sort of high level permissions. But people are installing apps into their tenant that have things like mail read write all into their mailbox and things like that. That's not changed, but the difference again with AI is that now just has more and more ability to do things, and if anything, to abuse those controls. So SaaS applications have proliferated massively over the last few years, and those that now have AI built into them, and we don't really understand necessarily what some of those that AI is doing within those apps, it just makes that more important. So what we need is to actually understand, first of all, what have we got? So we need visibility to understand what actually are our people doing in our organization. You know, if we want to put in some guidance, some rules, even some blocks potentially to stop people doing stuff, we need to know what they're doing and also understand why they're doing it. But visibility is absolutely the first thing. And from a Microsoft perspective, if you're using Microsoft 365, you already have almost certainly the license or the ability to use Defender for Endpoint. It's the glue from the Microsoft perspective of sort of attaching the visibility of what's going on from a user perspective on the endpoint, what's going on even in the browser at the network level, everything. Defender for Endpoint now gives us that. It also feeds into Defender for Cloud Apps. And Defender for Cloud Apps is potentially one of the most underused products in the Microsoft suite for two reasons, really. One is Microsoft I wouldn't say they don't make quite such a big fuss about it, but potentially don't seem to. But also, it's largely not turned on by default. One of the great things in some ways about the Microsoft suites is you get a lot of these tools, and a lot of them are turned on and just work out of the box. Defender for Endpoint being the classic. You can deploy it with a couple of clicks, and you have a level of protection out of the box. Defender for Cloud Apps, not so much. It has a huge number of tools and ability, but most of it actually needs to be turned on or configured in some shape or form. And that's moved on recently with moving on to actual app governance. So now actually it will give you firstly discovery of all those SaaS applications that you're using, whether they be AI or not, although that you are able to then actually discover specifically AI apps. So Microsoft keeps a registry of those, so you can filter by that, but you can see pretty much all apps that are in use in your organization, whether it be through the cloud, through the endpoint, through the browser. All of that is delivered into the app governance console, and then also will give you a risk score. So what we're looking for here is actually it gives you that sort of cloud discovery, if you like, that discovery of what users are using, but also allows you to look at a list of apps and what's their rating. Let's be brutally honest, it's a Microsoft products, and there might be a little bit of bias around non-Microsoft products, but equally, it's a good starting point for understanding what's being used in your organization. So first point is, let's get visibility of what's going on. So I say we've got this cloud discovery going on, listing all our apps that our users are using, whether they be AI or not. But obviously, from today's perspective, we're looking at things where particularly AI is the risk. So real-time discovery of what's going on. Defender for Cloud Apps gives you the option to sanction those apps or not sanction those apps, so you can actually block them at the endpoint. But also you can put in policies as well to do that automatically. So you don't necessarily have to go in the console and have a look every day and say, oh, hang on, somebody started using this particularly risky app, let me block that, or understand what they're doing. You can actually have dynamic policies which basically say, if this application has a particularly high risk score or is trying to use some particular set of rights that we think are unacceptable, you can actually have a policy that blocks that automatically. Obviously, you can then review that, and if users need that app and you can justify it, then obviously you can allow it moving forward. But again, it gives you a complete element of visibility and control. So how do we actually start about enforcing guardrails? And I wish I'd come back and written that slide a bit better earlier. Now I've said it, because I'm very much one of, and I think I said it before, of not sort of trying enforcing guardrails, but more about providing guardrails for education. It's taking the users with you. It's about user education, making people understand why things are done and what the risks of things are, rather than necessarily putting in hard and fast rules. There are still reasons for doing that, and ultimately you will end up doing some of that. But more, to me, the whole process is around providing the right level of policy and education to take people with you. So one of the sort of very much developing and moving very fast actually functions within the Microsoft suite is data security posture management within the Purview suite. It now provides you with a massive visibility into what's going on in your organization from a data perspective. Now, again, a lot of that needs turning on. Obviously, it does very much depend on your licensing tier as to what elements of that you get. You get some elements of it from Business Premium up, some elements in E3, more in E5, and even more now in the new E7. But all of it, there are things in there you can use depending on what your licensing tier is. So what DSPM will do for you is basically do an investigation of your data within your tenant and how it's being used. One of the classics, which everyone's talking around with AI, is around open permissions. The classic, can Copilot, can an employee go and ask Copilot, what the CEO's salary is? Do they actually? Whereas before they probably could have, if they had access to the document that contains that information, they probably could have surfaced it if they'd searched hard enough. AI, as we know now, potentially will find that in seconds. So it's having the right permissions on people, but on data and so on. But DSPM can help you do that and provide you with a list of where actually potentially there's oversharing and so on. One of the big ones, which is the one that's often overlooked or often seems too difficult to implement, is around sensitivity labeling. We see a lot of organizations who have E3, E5 licenses, have done very little around the data governance and the purview side of it, particularly around sensitivity labeling, because people think it's difficult to achieve. I think actually it's really quite simple in many ways. It's just a flag. It's a guidance tool in my view, whereas people get a bit hung up on, we have to have this whole taxonomy about how things are designed and how and a whole rule set around that. Actually, no, you don't have to start using sensitivity labeling. You can come up with some quite sensible labeling strategies, and that can then help and provide people with a level of guidance of what they're doing. So, if you've got a document that's marked as whether it be sensitive or confidential, that immediately makes people think a little bit harder and stronger around actually what should I be doing with that. There's a like a second almost unconscious flag there about that helps people understand that actually what they're doing, is that, should I be copying and pasting that into ChatGPT, that kind of thing, hopefully. And there's more you can do around that, with rather than just labeling things and putting in hard and fast rules around what people can do with label content. You can have things like prompts that say, well, actually this piece of this file or this information is potentially sensitive. Are you sure you want to do that with it or whatever? So there's some soft guardrails you can implement rather than necessarily having hard and fast ones. Again, we got access hygiene. Again, that's really around having things permissioned rightly, so that it's around authorization. Do the right people have the right access, and more importantly, do the people who shouldn't have access not have access? Preventing privilege escalation. Again, obviously AI is going to find ways around stuff. That's one of the things that it does quite well, because I say, going back to that, it wants to please you, it wants to achieve what you've asked it to do, therefore it's going to find a way to do it. And again, DSPM will give you potential routes of, actually this chain of events, if you like, could result in a privilege escalation, therefore, and give you the things to shut it down. And again, constantly scanning data so that you can review that, where your posture is. There are elements of scores in there around both the security score and data governance scores, so you can see also how you're performing. So very powerful tool to use. And again, then if we want to get to actually putting in both guardrails and hard and fast rules, we can do that. So we can put in things about stopping people actually physically copying and pasting between on a device between corporate documents and the web. Perhaps the one that's often forgotten in this scenario is actually mobile devices, particularly in the I think we're probably very much still in the BYOD era. Corporate mobile phones are far less common than they used to be. So it's far less common that we have full control over end users' mobile devices, yet they almost certainly have access to their email. So, they can copy and paste data from their corporate email on their personal device into, ChatGPT on that personal device, unless you have some element of controls in there. And again, that's stuff we can do with Intune and app protection management in the 365 suite. Again, label-based uploads, again, you can stop particular functions, or again, even if you just want to put prompts in around guidance, should you be doing that rather than physically stopping it. Protecting, technical data, passwords, API keys, that kind of thing. But I think, again, it's coming back to education is absolutely the key thing around this. Having a policy, having a strategy is the most important thing, and having those guidelines and guardrails in place. But without them, people will just do what they want. So again, it's about getting to that structure that you want. But again, having the understanding, having the visibility to be able to do that in the first place. So again, lots of information in the Microsoft tools now, both in Purview. The whole suite sort of ties together between Defender for cloud apps and the Purview AI stuff. You can actually see a lot of what is going on in your organization. And even if you're not going to start necessarily putting controls in place today, go and turn some of this stuff on, or get some help turning some of this stuff on. Give you that visibility to actually understand what's going on in your organization. And then, it's a question of what do you then need to apply to help you control or give you more confidence that you've got a level of control over what's going on. Lots of stuff in Purview, behavior monitoring, particularly some of the insider risk management. Again, it's not necessarily about setting up and having to design a complete set of rules or taxonomy around users can do this, can't do that. For instance, insider risk management looks very much at behavioral things. So if all of a sudden people start doing things that they've not done before, or doing things with large volumes of data, copying and pasting into certain applications, it can flag anomalies. So there's a lot of stuff you can do in there without necessarily actually having to think through and implement a whole set of rules that are specific. There's just a lot of quite useful background stuff that you can turn on and give you elements of control. What are we? So this is really looking at trust between sort of public consumer AI and corporate, enterprise level AI. Very much a distinction that needs to be made in the sense of, if we look at things like corporate versions of Copilot, enterprise, if you're paying for the license, or again, similar with both Gemini and OpenAI to some extent, and ChatGPT Enterprise, those things have corporate or enterprise level protections built in the sense of, if you're using the enterprise level tools, all right, yes, absolutely, there's an element of cost, you're going to have to pay for them, but then you're having that. Your data residency rules potentially are included in that, i.e. it keeps data within certain geographic regions. It means your data is not used for training the models, for moving further. You basically maintain the boundaries and controls over your data with the enterprise level tools. None of that is there with the consumer version. So people copying and pasting stuff into their own, or the free versions of ChatGPT, or their own subscriptions of Claude, whatever it may be. None of those controls are in place. So just something to think about. And again, trying to put some element of risk against those things. Obviously, sanctioned enterprise apps right down the bottom. No such thing as zero risk, but obviously, hopefully, you're reducing your risk to an acceptable level. Moving up from there, we've got unverified browser add-ins, public chatbots, ChatGPT, and even moving on to one of the scenarios I gave you around, unsanctioned coding assistants, things that are writing applications within your organization that have access to potentially admin level functions within your enterprise, and they're doing stuff. Do you really know what it's doing? It is interesting that the AI thing has massively changed our Justin went on about the risks haven't changed, they've just amplified, but I think also our tolerance for risk has massively increased in the AI industry, because everybody wants to use it, wants to have a piece of it, and they need to some extent, because obviously it's becoming a competitive thing. You need to be using AI to stay competitive, but our tolerances seems to have dropped. Our tolerances have increased for risk, but I'm not sure our controls and visibilities have to the same extent. This is just one looking at classic zero trust model, where you could be where you should be. Probably don't need to add to that one. So yeah, very much start securing your environment today. Look at using data security posture management in Purview. look at actually what SaaS applications are you allowing in your organization, whether they be AI or not, but AI is obviously the focus here. But also using Defender for Cloud Apps, actually looking at what's going on from an app governance perspective in your organization. And again, pretty much this is the one thing we've taken a lot of customers through and continue to do so is putting in a roadmap around actually what are you going to do with that whole AI or shadow AI risk. Discovery is key. Understand what's going on, put in rules, and then actually what are you doing on an ongoing basis to manage that governance and control that risk. Not quite sure now who was doing this, but was this my bit or not?
We can let JB do. This is JB's handiwork. Let's quickly skip us through the licensing SKUs, JB. Just so
yeah, no, happy to. So I think for anybody who's involved, obviously we're from the Microsoft division inside Nasstar, so this is a kind of a Microsoft first approach to how we would look at your security maturity. Which the more I say it, the more I actually like the rhyming that goes with that. So this is just to give you kind of a breakdown of some of the technology that Giles has talked about and how it would expand across your license uplift, either from E3, and E3 is also for Business Premium. There is a lot of similarity. There's only minor differences apart from the cost between an E3 and Business Premium. So anybody that's in the sub 300 seats, E3 more or less equals Business Premium, where you can get your identity security, you can put your base level Defender endpoint protection in, Purview is available at the manual level, your Intune controls are there at the starting level. So you can set a really good foundational level with E3. As you build up through E5, and I've seen the question in the Q&A, this is where the Defender for Cloud Apps, there is part of that limited to the Office 365 stack is available in E3. The wider Defender for Cloud Apps is available either as part of the Defender suite or as part of the E5 uplift. And what we see is that most people are taking the journey by starting with E5 and looking at some of the enhancements on the E3 level. So getting to Defender for Endpoint at the Plan 2 level, getting the wider Defender for Cloud Apps, turning their Purview maturity from manual through to automated, and and increasing their label protection and their label governance, having that DSPM and that's that data security posture management for the AI insights, they're all coming out of the E5. As of July, Microsoft have also then expanded what's gone into E5. So anybody who's looking at their own XDR or SOC service, Security Copilot is now part of the full E5 license. So looking at the security element, the AI insights and tracking, reverse threat hunting, they're all available to you in the E5 stack. And then for those brave enough to go through into the Microsoft new top tier, we have that maximized security posture where you've then got access to Agent 365 for doing your Microsoft security controls around any of your Copilot agentic AI and their Copilot agents, and expanding your identity security through the Entra suite, looking at public and private access controls and some other functions in there. So this is, as part of your license maturity, this is how you can increase your security maturity as we move forward. Thanks, Sean.
Thanks, Justin. So we're coming to the end of the session, so it's time for a kind of shameless plug. So where can we as a partner help organizations like you guys with all the stuff we've talked about? So, you know, we've got skills and capabilities and engagements that kind of start all the way from the what can the tools do, everything that JB's just discussed. We can demonstrate some of that capability. There are some workshops we can run around that. We can help with the assessment piece of that puzzle as well, run the tools, bring some people in to help you understand what you're seeing and what it all means. We can help with the deployment. We've got a team of people that's very au fait with all this technology. We've done it for multiple customers, so we've seen the right, the wrong, the good, the bad of how to deploy this stuff. And then right at the end of that spectrum, we've got a series of operational kind of managed services where we can put security managed services in, or a SOC, or all those kind of things. So we've got quite a full stack of security capability in this place. And just, you know, no presentation from a Microsoft partner is complete without mentioning Microsoft funding. So there are actually some funded engagements that Microsoft provide. There's a whole, you know, based on eligibility, he has to say caveat. There's a series of workshops around data security, a series of workshops around threat protection. If you're eligible, basically you're doing that on Microsoft's coin. As a partner, we'd obviously like to think that those things would then turn into an engagement to implement the thing that we've shown you. Now, they are quite prescriptive, these engagements. We like them, we do them, that's all good, but often they are trying to land a specific set of messages that doesn't often give you a full end-to-end assessment of your security needs across the full Zero Trust with a series of recommendations. So we have also got one that we've kind of home cooked that sits across all of those security dimensions, and we come up with a readiness assessment that kind of does some of that discovery and recommendation work. So, and as a special treat for everyone who's attended this meeting, we're going to put a bit of a discount on this, so we can run. I can't remember what the value of it almost doesn't matter, it's free to you, but the funded workshops are worth. But normally we'd charge kind of 10, 12 grand for our security assessment. For anyone who's attended this workshop, I have just now come up with a special treat, which is we'll do this for 7.5K. So if there's anything you've heard today and you think, oh, it would be good to accelerate some of this, good to get a sense of what's going on, want to get a bit of a feel for how our security posture is and what we could do, because we're a Microsoft house with the Microsoft tooling, then we've got an assessment that can come along and help you answer some of those questions. Right, so that's me done. Thanks, everybody. Do you want to put some closing words on, Mr. Stefan?
Sure. Never been called Mr. Stefan before. Mr. Sturch a few times, but yeah, just wrapping this up. We'll be in touch. We'll have myself, my colleagues Dominica and Michael contact you. He might see a little asterisk saying subject to eligibility for funding. We'll let you know if we're available for it or not, or whether there's another route where we can support you. We do have a few minutes left if anyone wants to quick fire some Q&A in. If not, we don't get any questions in, we'll be in touch shortly and let you know about the eligibility for the funding. But quick thanks for everybody who joined. Hope you found it engaging. Hope you have a bit more clarity on Shadow AI and the Microsoft suite that can support you with risk and security. So yeah, great. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Steph. I'm not seeing any questions. Okay, I think I'll call it. So listen, thanks everyone from me as well. It's been great. And hopefully we'll see some of you soon.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.